this new technology came out that was mesmerizing.
Toy Story.
Disney came out with Aladdin. It was a casting decision that they never bothered with prior to this. They said, you know all that work you did? We're throwing it out. We're going to start over from scratch. We did about 80% of a film that they threw away. Literally, guys, I cannot emotionally or physically or spiritually do this anymore. And somewhere in the mix of that comes out, that moment for Woody and Buzz.
We talk to high performers such as yourself, and we ask them to share just lived experiences,
Great.
which just helps our listeners
Sure.
learn from them, embrace
Beautiful.
them in their own lives, and
Beautiful.
so on. Before Toy Story was Toy Story, and you agreed to do it, I'm intrigued by, obviously this was a time when movie stars didn't necessarily do a lot of voiceover.
Right.
How and why did you agree
I can
to
tell
get
you
involved?
exactly. Disney came out with Aladdin with Robin Williams as the genie. And if you hadn't seen the movie and other people had, they will say, you have got to go see this new Disney movie because Robin Williams is hilarious. Really? As opposed to the absent-minded professor and Fred McMurray is... no, you can't. And then when you saw it, I remember seeing it and missing lines because we were laughing too much. And knowing how movies are made, that means they just got Robin in a studio with a microphone and said, go, man, go. All right? And I think, I'm no expert with it, but I believe that might have been the first time an animated, specifically Disney movie, was hugely popular because of the casting, because Robin was so amazing. And the benevolent overlords at Disney at the time, that would have been the Katzenberg-Eisner era, there was all business. It was a business decision that they had made. And so they said, oh, wait a minute, if we get quote unquote above the title actors in it, it will not just be a movie for kids that the adults will choose in order to go see it. And we just happened to land at the same time that this new technology came out that was mesmerizing. And the geniuses that John Lasseter and everybody else was at Pixar, they had just bottled lightning in a new way that ended up being a brand new enterprise maybe at a time when Disney animated movies were beginning to look more or less, in a kind of technological sameness, right? And so it was just this convergence of an idea fueled by a casting decision that they never bothered with prior to this. Robin Williams is one of the greatest improvers on planet Earth. He was to improvisational comedy wordage, whatever you want to say, what Picasso was to paints and brushes and canvases. And they just turned on the mic. And that was it. Now, I will tell you about the Toy Story, the first Toy Story. They sort of wanted us to do a version of that, the entire cast, not just me, but and Tim. And they said, look, if you want to come up with some ad-libs, go ahead and do it. Not my thing, per se, but they were trying to form it. And we did about 80% of a film that they threw away because it was not working. It didn't have a unifying DNA or emotional arc to it. Instead, it was based on, let's see what we come up with. And that must have been a tough story for everybody at Pixar in the studio, tough phone call to make, because they said, you know all that work you did? We're throwing it out, and we're going to start over from scratch.
Well, I've actually got a clip that was on YouTube.
Okay.
If I can show it to you.
Hey, wow. Am I hearing correctly? You don't think I was right? Who said your job was to think, Spring Wiener?
I just thought that
use this vast reserve of brain power to consider this for a moment. If it wasn't for me, Andy wouldn't pay any attention.
That is exactly that's amazing.
Because he was a bit mean.
He was like a bossy, they were trying to develop this kind of dynamic between a guy who thought he was an expert with a guy who was a cluck.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so there was it would have worked to a degree, but it wasn't examining the theme, oddly enough, of humanity that made any sense. And so they just, that's amazing that exists, because that is literally the thing that did not work when you put it all together. And they did not know that until they put it all together.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
were you involved much in the character development?
no, other than the work that we did in the studio at the time. And by the way, that's grueling work. It sounds ridiculous to say, but to stand on microphone and be constantly outraged and, angry and, lecturing everybody or complaining or trying to come in. I always said it's a work on the diaphragm. It's the only time I work that hard.
Do you
as
have
an
to
actor.
prepare differently for voiceover work to in-person work? Do you have to do anything different? I mean, you're describing there that it can be a bit grueling.
The difference is the powers of the imagination because it's all you have. I mean, if I'm in a costume and we're on a set, there is this thing that you can just sort of like start playing and it's fun and you get there. No matter whether it's serious or not. I mean, like I made a movie where Audrey Tautou and I were running around the Louvre Museum. I was changing my shoes in front of the Mona Lisa. And you know how we did that? Well, we went to the Louvre Museum and we shut it down and we ran around trying to solve, the Da Vinci Code. That actually covers an awful lot of ground. But when you go to Studio C on the Disney lot and you're there for, hours and hours and hours for days and days or months and months and months on end, not continuously, but you keep returning to it, your brain fries and you go slowly nuts. And you see, there were times when literally I left a recording studio where I said, in a nice way, you guys are savages. And I'd take my headphones off, put it down, and say, I cannot, literally guys, I cannot emotionally or physically or spiritually do this anymore today. And,
And I've heard, this might be a rumor, but I don't know if it's something you said or I heard, but do you do it a lot of time with your eyes closed? Does that help with the imagination?
There's a lot of stuff that has to go like that. There is an actor's exercise in theory or in a classroom that you can do. It's called repetitions, in which you have a line of dialogue and you literally wring every possible interpretation of that line out. It can be very minor. I remember doing it when I was at Chabot College, about the only true acting class I took, in which it was the exercise that our instructor gave. And it was lines of the servants in a Shakespeare play. All they were doing was setting up a table. And our job is to wrangle all the meaning we could out of literally 4 lines of servants from, I can't even remember what play it was. And that is what we do all day long for every line of Toy Story. Wow. And there have been times where we have gone to 73 takes on something, and they are satisfied, and I am not. And so we stay with it.
Wow.
And there are times when we've gone to 73 takes, and I am satisfied, and they are not. And somewhere in the mix of that comes out, that moment for Woody and Bo, or Woody and Buzz.
And I hear there's some with other film stories that I've heard where the actor has seen the movie and actually gone in and gone, I don't like the way I played that, I want to redo it. I've heard that with a couple. Are there any roles you've ever played that you would love to go back and redo?
Moments of them in all.
Yeah.
I haven't, I don't see these movies more than once, because they don't change. That's one thing. And the first time, all you're doing is being the most self-critical human being on the planet Earth. And there is something in every one of these movies that I wish I could go back and do over. Sometimes it's a whole day of shooting. Sometimes it's one individual bit of coverage. But I have since learned that the worst arbiter of the quality of a moment is the actor who performed it, because it's all just a battle of self-consciousness. Because I've done. There was a scene in Philadelphia in which Andy is leaving Denzel's office, and he will not represent me because I have AIDS, and I have nowhere to go. I have no lawyer. I have no hope. I'm going to die soon. I am a social pariah. I have no job. And when we did it, all that was required of me was to walk through a door, look both ways up and down the street, and move off. And when we did it, I said, I was more worried about Carl Fullerton, who had done all the special effects makeup on it. He said, I have covered that strip of hair on the back of your head. And if you move your neck too much, it's going to wrinkle. Okay, sir. I'll try not to. So we did it, and we do 3 takes? I have no idea. And for me, it was just a beat. It was a thing that we were grabbing in the light. But when you add on everything prior to it and everything after to it, when you added, Jonathan Demme brought up the bass line of Streets of Philadelphia by Mr. Springsteen, and you end up seeing it in context, it's this thing that I can't quite fathom how it is as powerful. And I've had people come up to me, strangers said, man, that moment when you left Incels Wanted, I said, very good, sir. And you realize that that's the serendipity of being in a movie.
Yeah.
Something happens that is beyond your control, including whatever control you had on the day that you were shooting it. A lot of times, every motion picture director is very different. Sometimes they want to go as many takes as the clock and the budget will allow, and other times they want to do 2 and move on.
Mm.
And I have come to the point now if I have satisfied myself as being there on the moment, I will say, they'll say, do you need another one? I said, if you would like me to do another one, I will. But there was also other times where I've said, hey, could we get another one? And, like Clint Eastwood in Sully's. And, no, I think it was great just the way it was. And you will just have faith in everything that comes before and everything that comes after and everything that's added to it.
One thing we talk about constantly on this show is that high performance rarely comes from one big moment. It comes from the culmination of small decisions made consistently over a long period of time. Micro habits, getting your mindset right. And increasingly, I've realized that this applies to your money as well as your life. How do you put systems in place that quietly work for you in the background? Well, that's where platforms like XTB are really interesting for me. They've just launched a cash ISA and stocks and shares ISA where new customers can currently earn 6% interest, which includes a 2% boost for the first 90 days. You get tax-free growth, daily interest, flexible withdrawals, no account management fees, and access to over 8,400 stocks and ETFs on their platform. And if you open an account and make your first deposit within 7 days, you'll also receive a free stock to start investing. Learn more at xtb.com/en/join/high performance and use code HPP when you sign up. Capital at risk, investment values can rise or fall. Tax treatment depends on your individual circumstances and ISA regulations, which may change. Limited free stock availability, 2% ISA rate boost for 90 days. New clients only, T's and C's apply.
We'll come back to Toy Story in a sec. The one thing I want to say is there's a scene that you did that me and my mates always talk about in Captain Phillips. Near the end when you've been kind of rescued and you break down. And I'm just like, that
happened in real time. It wasn't in the script.
Really?
It was like, talk about it. Understand that I had been being beaten up by Barkhad and Abdul and everybody for quite a long time. And we had talked to Paul Greengrass. I got to also give it up to him for his willingness to shoot on the fly as he did. We were talking to the actual captain of the Brisbane who had been the guy who rescued Captain Phillips. And we were talking to him after we had shot what was the ending of the movie, a scene that you didn't see. And so I said, oh, and Paul's like, what was the first exchange you had with Phillips on the day? So, well, I was dealing with the Department of Defense guys, and I didn't even know where he was. So I don't think I talked to him till after he'd come through the infirmary. And Paul said, the infirmary? It wasn't in the script. He said, oh, yeah, I mean, anybody who comes out, he's got to be good. So we went down to the infirmary on board the ship and spoke to, I think her name was Cynthia. I won't have the name of it. And they were the staff down there were just hoping maybe they could be in the background of a shot. Next thing you know, Paul walks in with me and Mr. Aykroyd, who was our DP. And he knows how Paul works, so he's automatically looking around where he can place the lights. And Paul starts talking to the staff there. And they said, what would you have done? And they said, oh, well, we would have made sure what his wounds were. We would have checked out all of his vitals. We would have made sure that he's not near death. We would have patched up whatever was necessary. We would have made a complete assess of his physical and mental state. And then Paul says, do you think you could do that right now if we, put Tom? And we did it there. And it was the immediacy of it and the fluidity of it, but also everything that we had been through prior to that. And I can't tell you the power of a woman's gentle touch in the midst of both emotional and physical distress. So, and that's the serendipity of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That when that happens, there's nothing like it in the world.
This is a bit of fun about sort of high performance stuff. So, do you think Woody is a high performer, and why? And why?
Oh my God, Woody has high blood pressure and a need to control absolutely everything all the time. So yeah, I think he is a high performer.
Is that your definition
Yeah,
of a high performer?
without a doubt. He's the guy you can take in small doses.
And what advice would Toy Story 5 Woody give to 30 years ago Toy Story Woody? So what advice would he give back to a younger Woody?
All right, that you can handle life outside the safety of Andy's bedroom.
Yeah.
You can handle it. It's going to be okay.
Love that. What would Woody's favorite Tom Hanks movie be?
That Thing You Do.
And why?
The music, man.
Yeah,
It's like, come on.
And what
1964 rock and roll would be that thing.
Is that your favorite movie?
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah.
Buzz, what would his favorite Tom Hanks movie be?
Oh, who cares? Who cares? Oh my God. No, I guess Sully, maybe like that. Maybe Sully.
Yeah, I was thinking Apollo 13.
Well, yes, but
that too obvious?
Buzz would, it's too obvious, and Buzz would have said, they're doing it wrong, Well, of course you don't stir the cryo tanks for crying out loud. You don't do that.
And then I've got one final question.
Bring it on.
This is a question we ask all our guests on the show, so it'd be great to get your thoughts on this. If you were to give one golden rule to living a high-performance life, what would that be?
This too shall pass. Simple as that. Do you think you've cracked it? Honestly, have you hit it for 6? Are you just the golden boy at that moment? This too shall pass. Do you think you're an abject failure? Are you crawling back to your room to deal with hours and hours of a losing battle against self-loathing? This too shall pass.
Yeah.
And that's it.